Well, my wife Janet and I are so very grateful to be here and truly thrilled to have you come out, because you know something is happening between now and Tuesday. I don't know if you know about it. It's a little thing called an election. It's happening in Ohio. Now, there are some people who don't think that it's even necessary for you to go vote, because some of the people in Washington have already got it figured out who you're supposed to vote for, and they've kind of decided that you really don't even need to go vote, because we've decided not to have an election. We're going to have a coronation. And the Republicans shouldn't even be going to vote. Some people even say it's all over. Every day, I probably have 10 different press people today say, could you tell us why you're in this race? Let me try to spell it out for you here. First of all, because nobody has won it yet. That's one reason. In America, there's an old-fashioned way of putting forth our candidates. It's called voting for them. And what we're going to ask you to do is, you could really mess up the national pundits. Because here's what's going to happen. Next Tuesday, should Senator McCain win Ohio, and everyone assumes that, you know, he will. I don't. But if he should, what they will say is, oh, and by the way, in Ohio, Senator McCain won, and that's about all they'll say. And they'll pass over you pretty quickly. If, however, you get out and work real hard and we win Ohio, they're going to be fumbling all over themselves all Tuesday night trying to explain what happened. But let me tell you why this election is very important. And it's not only important to me, but I'd like to believe it's important to every conservative in the Republican Party and across this country who believes that some things that we are about, not about the politics, it's about the principles that we stand for. And the fact is, many of us got into politics not just because we like the game of it, because frankly, the game is not that much fun some days. It's about things we really believe that make this country strong, and things we really believe can make this country weak. You see, I believe that what makes this country strong, first of all, is that we understand how we got here as a nation, that we realize it was by providence, by people who first were on their knees and then got on their feet and fought for this country and spilled their blood to give it to us, and for whom freedom truly meant something. Those 56 brave men who signed the Declaration of Independence understood exactly what they were doing, and here's what they said. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That was a radical idea in 1776. It shattered the myths about what government was supposed to be. Here were people who believed that, unlike their forefathers who thought that their place in the aristocracy was what gave them their position, here are people who said that all are created equal, and that no person is worth more than another and no person is worth less than another. That every person had intrinsic value and worth, and that intrinsic value and worth had been given to them by God, not by their government. And that because of that, no human attribute elevated one person above another. It was not our abilities or our disabilities. It was not our net worth, our last name, our ancestry, the address which we lived. It was not who our parents were or what they had done or failed to do. I was very happy to hear that, because my dad used to tell me, son, don't look too far up your family tree. There's stuff up there you don't need to see. I looked up there a little ways. I realized, boy, he's right. I better not look too far. I was not one of the blue bloods. My family did not come over on the Mayflower. I think they were dumped off the shores of Georgia from the debtors' prisons of Great Britain. And I think some of them went downhill from there for a while. In this country, our fundamental basis for existing is that we are all equal. And that because our worth and value comes from our Creator, our government's only role is to protect those basic rights that have been given to us, and nobody should trample upon them. And they also had an interesting idea about government. They thought that the best government was self-government. In other words, essentially, we should govern ourselves by our own moral conscience. Now, this was an incredibly radical idea because you don't need a whole lot of external government if your internal government is working right. Nobody has to tell you it's wrong to murder somebody, or it's wrong to lie, or it's wrong to steal from somebody, or it's wrong to cheat on your wife, because your internal government says you don't do those things. And the more internal government that you have that self-governs, the less you need external to you telling you what to do and what you can't do. Now, our founding fathers said we didn't need a whole lot of government. The best government was the least government, and that the best of the least was what was inside of us. In fact, democracy, our kind of government, cannot exist in a moral vacuum. It has to exist with people who have ethical commitments to doing what is right. Because if we don't have a natural inclination to do what is right, we're going to need a whole lot of government to define it for us. And you know what? The fact that we have shelf after shelf of law books today is an indictment upon our failure to follow our own basic natural law and moral code. But what we have to understand is that if we believe in the essence of this nation, we believe that we are all equal. That doesn't mean that we all do the same thing, but it so permeates our culture, even to our military, so that we have a doctrine in our military that says that we leave no man behind on the battlefield, and even if our soldier is wounded, we don't leave him to die. We do everything possible to bring him out of there. Now, I want you to think about what that means as a nation. It means that we accept that that soldier's value to us is not just in his ability to fight. Because even when he no longer can fight, when he is wounded beyond the point of having any useful service to the rest of his unit, we do not render him unimportant and of less value. We go get him off the battlefield and we bring him home to safety because we honor his life and we value it. That's why we go looking for the 12-year-old Boy Scout in the woods of North Carolina, our 6 coal miners in Huntington, Utah, trapped when the coal mine collapses, or why we go after 3 hikers in Mount Hood, Oregon, when the avalanche gets to them. Because we know that if that were us, we'd want someone to value our lives, and therefore we value theirs. Ladies and gentlemen, our nation is a pro-life nation because we value life, whether it's an unborn child in the womb or even whether it's a frozen embryo like little Rachel and little Joshua. We value life because it represents who we are as a nation. We value the life of the terminally ill, and we still treat people who are terminally ill with dignity and with respect because we would want to be treated with dignity and respect. That's who we are as a country. What separates us from the Islamo-fascists is that we do not believe, as they do, that it would be okay to strap a bomb to the belly of our own children and put that child in the middle of a crowded room like this and detonate the bomb so we could make a political point. That's unthinkable to us. We find it repulsive. In fact, we find it so repulsive that we understand that that is a worldview that simply has no place in civilization. And that's why, my dear friend, this election is not just about economic issues, though it is about that. It's about the very essence of what kind of society, what kind of civilization we shall be. Now, if we understand that the best government is the most local, then let's also understand that the most basic form of government is the human family. And the reason that our families are important is because they are the heart of our government. And if our families aren't strong, everything built upon it won't be any stronger than that. So when people talk about, I don't want to hear about these family issues, they have nothing to do with the government. They have everything to do with the government. As families are weak, a government is weak. And as families are strong, so our government has the capacity to be strong. But we do face real challenges, many of which because we have a government that has worked against us rather than for us. My friends, there's a different philosophy by some in Washington and those of us who don't live there. And if you haven't noticed, I'm the only guy running for president who does not have a Washington address. I think that is a big plus for me. If you're satisfied with the way Washington has addressed the economic concerns of working class people, then go ahead and vote for one of them. I personally am not satisfied, and let me tell you why. I think Washington has miserably blown it. Here's why. They've entered into trade agreements, not that those are bad, but when you only enforce one side of the trade agreement, guess what happens? People in Ohio lose jobs to people in China. People in Ohio get pink slips. People in China get paychecks. I think it ought to be the other way around. People in Ohio ought to be getting the paychecks. If you think Washington has done enough to help this country become energy independent and have us quit being enslaved to Middle East oil barons who want to manipulate our environment and economy, then go ahead and vote for one of them. I'm the only guy running for president who says that within 10 years we will become energy independent, self-sufficient with domestically produced energy, and we'll tell the Saudis, we don't need your oil. If you're satisfied with the way that health care has been addressed in this country, then elect one of those guys from Washington. If you're satisfied with the education system in this country, then elect one of them. But I'm the only person in this race who's actually run a government. None of them have. I have. I'm the only person whose state reversed the incidences of childhood obesity and saw a dramatic turnaround in test scores for our kids, and also empowered mothers and fathers to raise their own kids. If they wanted to homeschool them, we empowered them to let them do that however they wanted to educate their kids. If you believe that it is the purpose of government to fix us, then vote for one of those guys. But if you believe it is our purpose to fix the government, then I want your vote, because I believe it's our job to fix the government, not the government's job to fix us. The heart of this country is pretty simple. Lower taxes are better than higher taxes. Less government is better than more government. If you got to have government, make sure it's competent, efficient, effective, and that it's as local as it can be, because it's closer to the people being governed and therefore more accountable. That mothers and fathers raise better kids than governments do, get the government off the backs of families, and don't have government telling parents how to raise their kids. That the fact is that government's job is to protect us, not to provide for us. Government's there not to complicate free enterprise, but to facilitate free enterprise, so that in that marketplace we can dream our dreams, sketch out our ideas, even on our kitchen table on the back of a napkin, and come up and make it a business where it creates jobs and creates wealth and creates the capacity for the next generation to live better than the one we've been a part of. That's the kind of government most of us want, and it's the kind of government our founding fathers envisioned when they believed that we would self-govern. And then the government we had above us would be very limited, but it would always work for us. And that we would from time to time elect people, but they would not be elected to be the ruling class. They would be elected to be the serving class, and that we always, the people, would be the ruling class. That's the kind of government I envision, the kind of government I'm asking you to vote for next Tuesday.